The story begins with a woman in labor about to give birth to twins, but her grandmother warns her that dawn is almost here and that she must not give birth just yet. Everyone present thinks this sounds absolutely crazy, but the grandmother tells them that as impossible as it sounds, she has to hold on because these children are going to be the ones who command the demon. Later, after the children have finally been delivered, a man stands and stares at them both with deep regret written all over his face, realizing that the children who sunder day and night have just come into the world. 16 years pass, and one of the twins, Yuru, is out hunting in the forest where he brings down a pheasant cleanly with a single arrow. After that, he heads back home on his horse where his brother Danji comes over to him, clearly annoyed that he has been out hunting alone again without him. Danji reminds him that if anything were to happen to him out in the mountains, there would be nobody around to come and help him. But Yuru does not think it is that big a deal since the divine guardians on his left and right are always there to protect him. However, Danji's concern disappears almost immediately the moment he realizes that Yuru came back with a pheasant, which means they are going to have it grilled for dinner. As they make their way back home, the villagers greet and acknowledge them warmly along the way, which shows just how deeply loved they are by everyone in the community. When they get back home, their grandmother immediately calls Danji over to help with chopping the firewood. But Danji is not in the mood for chores and takes off running as fast as he can. Yuru then asks his grandmother about Asaf, and she replies that she is doing well and carrying out her duty properly as always. After that, Yuru heads inside where he finds his sister Asa sitting inside a cage, and she welcomes him back from his hunt. From the other side of the cage, Yuru tells her all about his day and how he managed to catch a pheasant, and she is genuinely impressed by it. But Yuru is not too pleased with himself, saying he was hoping to bring back a boar or a deer. There has not been much rain this year, and Yuru is starting to feel worried about the harvest. He figures there is likely going to be less food to go around this year, so he is going to have to spend more time hunting to make sure their pantry stays stocked up. Hearing this, Asa wonders whether the adults of the village would end up leaving for the outside world to find work. After Yuru tells her that is a real possibility, she asks him if he would go too, and he turns back sharply and tells her that he would not, because that is exactly why he trained himself to hunt in the first place. He figures that if he makes himself valuable enough to the village, there would be no reason for him to leave like the others. He tells Asa not to worry because nothing in this world is going to make him leave this village, and that no matter what happens, he is always going to be right there with her to keep her safe. Asa is glad and relieved to hear that. Just then, their mom walks in to let Yuru know that Dara is here. Dara is seen upstairs trading with the villagers using goods he managed to bring in from the outside world. When the villagers ask him how things are out there, he tells them that the economy is in really bad shape and that there is also a pandemic spreading on the outside. When Yuru arrives, Dara just tosses him a ball meant for Asat because he knows full well that Yuru never wants anything for himself and only ever asks for souvenirs to bring back to his sister. Yuru admits that is true and goes over to trade the feathers from the pheasant he brought back earlier. After Dara leaves, Yuru and Danji get to work on the farm, and while they are at it, Danji starts talking about how much he wants to leave this village and go out into the outside world. He figures the outside world must be something really special since people who leave tend to never come back. But Yuru feels the complete opposite and says he wants to spend the rest of his life right here in this village. Danji assumes it is because of his sister and suggests that he just leave and take Asa along with him. But Yuru replies saying that being around him would only bring shame to Asa. Yuru reminds Danji that Asa has a very important duty to carry out. And when Danji stops to think about it, he realizes he has never actually met Asa before. Yuru replies telling him that it is because she is only permitted to meet with certain people and not with common folk like him. This gets Danji worked up, and the two of them go back and forth arguing until they suddenly hear a loud sound coming from above. They both look up to the sky, and Yuru spots what looks like white lines of smoke trailing across it, which he casually assumes must be dragon farts. The sound keeps getting louder, and Yuru recalls hearing something similar to it while he was out hunting in the mountains not long ago. They both start to think it has to be a dragon, so they begin getting themselves ready for a fight. Then, all of a sudden, someone casts a spell that releases what appears to be an energy pulse, breaking the village's barrier. They both look back up into the sky and realize that those white lines of smoke are actually coming from an airplane. And shortly after that, helicopters helicopters fly in and begin surveying the land below. The villagers watch the aircraft moving through the sky above them and have no idea what to make of it, so they begin to panic. Men in military uniforms are then sent in and begin cutting and shooting down every villager they come across without hesitation. Even Dara, who was on his way out of the village at the time, is unlucky enough to get caught in the chaos and is shot from behind. The villagers are still completely stunned by what is happening, so they rush to Granny Yamaha and demand answers. She tells them that their barriers have been broken through and that she believes their target is most likely Yuru. She tells them to find Yuru as fast as they can and get him hidden somewhere safe, so the moment they hear that they take off and start searching for him right away. Meanwhile, Yuru and Danji arrive at the village square and find it covered in bodies. After taking it all in for a moment, they both run back home, desperately hoping their families are still alive. On the way there, they run into a pair of soldiers who spot Yuru and call out that they have found him. But Yuru fires a couple of arrows at them, and he and Danji move in to knock them both out before continuing on their way. Yuru wonders if those flying things are actually dragons. When they reach the guardian statues, Danji mentions that his mom is most likely still working at the keep right now. Yuru starts moving some rocks out of the way and asks Danji to lend him a hand. And after a little while, a hidden shortcut leading straight to the keep is uncovered. Danji is completely thrown off by this since he has lived in this village his whole life and never had any idea it was even there. Meanwhile, on the other side of the village, the helicopters drop down a blonde girl named Gabby who seems completely confident about taking on everyone around her all by herself. She then lets loose her magic gobble technique, which cuts through each villager one after another with nothing more than a flick of her hand. Once it is all done, she pops a piece of gum into her mouth and pulls out her phone to get in touch with the ground squad, but to her surprise, she gets no response at all. That is because Dara did not die after all and managed to take out the entire ground squad all on his own. He pulls out his phone and calls Hana, telling her that they are going to have to change their meeting point because he believes Asa has shown up. Meanwhile, over at the area where Asa's cage is kept, a girl walks in dragging Yuru's grandmother along the ground behind her. She spots Asa inside the cage and looks at her with complete disgust, calling her a sick joke. She then stretches her hand out and releases a burst of energy that destroys the cage and tears Asa open across the face, killing her. Yuru then bursts into the room asking if Asa is alright, and the girl responds with a slight smirk, addressing Yuru as her brother. She tells him that she is the real Asa and that she has come to take him with her and that she is going to kill everyone here except for him. Yuru is left in complete disbelief hearing that, but he quickly pulls himself together and tells her there is no way someone like her could be his sister. He fires an arrow straight at her, but she blocks it with her magic, setting off a small explosion in the process. Meanwhile, Dara uses a pistol he picked up to take out any soldiers he runs into as he pushes deeper into the village. That is when he comes across Gabby, who has a demon with enormous teeth, and she is surprised that he is able to see it. Dara fires a couple of shots at it, but its teeth are too tough to be stopped by bullets. Then, while Gabby lets her guard down for a moment, Dara hurls a grenade that catches her completely off guard and pulls her right into the blast. Meanwhile, the girl claiming to be Asa is caught off guard by how large the explosion she caused actually was, especially since all she meant to do was stop the arrow Yuru fired. The ball that Dara gave Yuru then rolls over through Asa's blood on the floor, and it coagulates into a demon that reaches out and restrains the girl in place. Yuru's grandmother then calls out to Dara and tells him to get Yuru out of there, take him to the outside world, and make sure they never find him. Dara does exactly as he is told and gets Yuru out of the village. Meanwhile, while Danji is checking on his mother who has been wounded, Yuru goes rushing past in Dara's arms, which leaves Danji even more confused about what is going on. Shortly after, Dara and Yuru reach the end of the shortcut, and Dara tells him that they are heading to the outside world right now, and that they are going to start by making their way down the mountain. But Yuru is still completely lost and asks Dara to tell him what is happening. Dara says there is no time for explanations and tries to push forward and get them out of there, but it is already too late as they have been spotted and bullets start flying at them. Dara realizes they have missed their window to escape, so he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a green necklace. He tells Yuru to place it into the gap between the left and right guardian statues. Yuru is confused by the instruction at first, but Dara just yells at him to do it without asking questions, so Yuru Yuru grabs the necklace and runs over to put it in place. Even though Yuru is completely out in the open and within range of the sniper holds his shot since the orders are to bring Yuru back alive. Once the necklace is in place, Dara rushes over and slams Yuru's face down onto it, getting his blood on the necklace. With that done, the sniper no longer has any reason to spare Dara and lines up the shot, ready to pull the trigger. But right at that moment, the necklace begins to glow, and then a bright flash of light bursts out. After it fades, two golden beings appear in the sky and tear through the helicopters in an instant, sending them crashing down to the ground while Dara grabs Yuru and runs, and the two of them get away just in time. Gabby watches the helicopters go down and screams in frustration because now she has no way of getting back home. Even so, she can sense that someone's demons have shown up, and she finds herself wondering just whose they are. Meanwhile, after everything settles, two beings with red and white hair are seen standing on top of the helicopter. They take note of the fact that their master this time around is just a kid, but even so, they know that no matter what, they have no choice but to obey their master without question. Dara then speaks to Yuru and tells him that these two are his demons. The scene then shifts back to the past, where Yuru's father is walking him through the secret passageway that connects the left and right guardian statues to the keep. The Lord of the Land had this hidden passageway built back when the village was still a castle, so very few people in the world even know it exists. His father tells him to do his best to keep it to himself and to only make use of the left and right when he truly needs to. Back in the present, the two demons introduce themselves to Yuru and inform him that they are in fact the left and right guardian statues that have been standing watch at the village exits ever since the day he was born. Once that has been acknowledged, Dara tells left and right that at least two serious threats have already shown up, so he asks them to help get the two of them safely down the mountain. But Right is quick to remind Dara that he is not their master and that they will only move on the orders of Yuru himself. Dara understands that, but feels there simply is not enough time right now to stop and explain the full situation to Yuru. But that is exactly when Gabby strolls in with her tooth demon, asking out loud whose demons those are because they look incredibly powerful. Dara is shocked to see that the tooth demon is still standing after taking a direct hit from his grenade, but Gabby tells him not to make the mistake of underestimating just how tough her demon really is. Yuru thinks back and remembers that she is one of the people responsible for the deaths of everyone in the village, and a sudden rush of anger wells up inside him. Right turns to Yuru and asks what his orders are, but to everyone's surprise Yuru replies saying he is not going to command them to do anything because they are the village's guardian deities and he would never dare give them orders. However, he does have two requests. The first is that they go back into the village and do whatever they can to rescue any survivors still in there. The second is that they leave Gabby to him entirely because he is going to deal with her himself. Beyond that, he tells left and right that they are free to do as they please, which gets Right visibly excited as he realizes his new master is exactly the kind of person who gives his companions room to act on their own. Meanwhile, Asa throws Granny Yamaha hard against a wall and before leaving tells her she is never going to forgive her for everything she has done to them. As she makes her way toward Yuru, she passes by Danji shielding his mother, but she does not attack and simply lets them be without a second glance, which leaves Danji sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Right takes off running toward Gabby and leaps clean over her, calling out that he is following Yuru's wishes by getting the remaining villagers out to safety. Left on the other hand drives a kick straight into the tooth demon since Yuru did tell them they are free to do as they please. Yuru then pulls back his bow and fires an arrow that catches Gabby in the leg, and just as he is lining up a second shot, Gabby's tooth demon comes rushing back and pulls her out of the way at the very last possible second. Left watches this happen and is genuinely surprised that the tooth demon is still capable of moving after taking a full kick from her. Yuru and Left take off after her, but Dara starts to panic and runs back to grab the talisman from the ground before hurrying along behind Yuru. Meanwhile, Right is doing exactly as he was told and going around gathering all the uninjured villagers he can find. Along the way he learns that the attackers killed all the adults but chose to spare the children, though every single one of them fainted the moment they laid eyes on him. As Right comes out of one of the rooms, he runs straight into Asa, who immediately hits him with a powerful energy blast, but Right is easily able to deflect it using his own magic without much effort. After that, Asa seems to remember remember that she still has something she needs to get done, so she simply turns and runs off, leaving Wright standing there on his own. This annoys him greatly, not just because of the attack, but because she didn't even stop to say hello. Meanwhile, Gabby is using her tooth demon to keep Left from getting anywhere near her, but Left has an extraordinary level of physical strength and uses her bare hands to force the tooth demon's mouth wide open. Yuru takes the opening and follows up by putting an arrow straight into Gabby's neck. Just then, Asa arrives and unleashes an energy blast powerful enough to crush Left and bury her under a pile of heavy rubble. Asa then walks over to check on Gabby, and that is when Yuru climbs up on top of the rubble and draws his arrow directly at them, demanding to know who they are. Asa tells Yuru that she is his sister, but Yuru does not believe a single word of it, because the Asa he knows is not that old and would never go around killing people the way she just did. But just then Wright jumps in and tells Yuru that her blood does carry the same scent as his, which means there is a very real chance they actually are siblings. Yuru is thrown into complete confusion by this and asks who the girl back in the keep is then, if this person in front of him is the real Asa. Asa tells him that the girl in the keep is an imposter. She explains that 10 years ago their parents took her and fled the village. Granny Yamaha and the others were afraid that Yuru would do the same thing if he found out, so they created an imposter and put her in Asa's place to make sure Yuru stayed. They knew that Yuru was a deeply caring and devoted older brother, so as long as he believed Asa was still in the village, he would never leave no matter what. Yuru stands there in a state of complete shock, taking all of this in, but his hands are trembling as he keeps his bow raised and pointed. Dara then steps forward and gently pushes Yuru's bow down, telling Asa to back off now that they have had their moment of reunion. He then turns back to Yuru and tells him that they still have no real idea what Asa is fully capable of, and if they stay any longer there is a real chance the village could take even more damage than it already has. Yuru sees the sense in that, tells them he is withdrawing, and then heads off down the mountain together with Dara and his demons. Meanwhile, Asa simply breaks down and begins to cry tears of pure joy, completely overwhelmed with relief at the fact that her brother is still alive. At the very same time, Granny Yamaha raises the barrier back up to where it was before, and the girl who everyone had assumed to be Asa is somehow revealed to still be alive despite the fatal attack that was launched on her by the real Asa. Meanwhile, Dara and Yuru are making their way through the woods together at a fast pace, and when Yuru asks whether there is any chance of him being able to go back to the village, Dara tells him there is simply no point in doing so because the enemy was able to break their way in even while the barrier was fully active, which means going back there right now simply will not be safe for either of them. They then slide their way down a hill and reach the spot where a car is parked and waiting for them, and inside that car is a girl named Hana, who is already noticeably annoyed at Dara for not giving her any kind of heads up that demons would also be coming along with them. Dara sincerely apologizes to her for leaving out that rather important detail. As they all get themselves sorted and finish packing up their things, Dara takes the time to fill Hana in on everything that took place, and she openly admits that it is quite a difficult situation for all of them to find themselves in right now. She is then introduced to Left and Right, who are immediately fascinated by the overall look and design of the car and simply cannot stop looking it over with great curiosity. Hana then turns her attention to Yuru and introduces herself to him properly, telling him that she and Dara work alongside each other as demon retainers. After all of that is out of the way, Hana suggests that they all get into the car and start moving as soon as possible. But Yuru hesitates and gets a little scared at the idea because he has genuinely never seen a car before in his entire life and is not at all sure whether getting inside one is going to be dangerous or not. Meanwhile, as Asa and Gabby wait together, a man named Jin arrives at the location with his crew behind him, and they thank him warmly for making the long trip all the way up the mountain to meet them. After Jin takes a moment to ask about the state of Gabby's wounds, Gabby waves it off and tells him not to concern himself with it even though the injuries are somewhat serious, because she is more than well used to dealing with that level of pain by now, and it is nothing she cannot handle. Gabby then goes on to let him know that unfortunately they weren't able to get their hands on Yuru since he managed to slip away and escape with a middle-aged man named Dara. The moment Jin hears that particular name, he immediately recognizes Dara as a Tatara demon retainer, and the realization of that makes him genuinely regret the decision he made not to bring his own own demon along on this particular job. As Yuru and the rest of the group continue making their way along in the car, Dara gives Hana a fairly quick but thorough rundown of exactly how everything unfolded back at the village when the attack first came down on them. But then Left reaches down and knocks on the window from outside and tells Dara that she can sense another demon approaching their direction, which immediately puts everyone inside the car on high alert. Left then tells them all to calm down and not to worry because this particular demon does not appear to mean any of them any harm whatsoever. A woman riding on top of a white horse then pulls up alongside their moving car and calls out to Left and Right, telling them just how wonderful it is to lay eyes on them again after such a long time, as it has now been well over 400 years since the two of them were last released. Right fills her in and lets her know that the two of them have taken on a brand new master since then, and that this new master of theirs happens to be one of the very children who sunder day and night. He also tells her that for the time being it looks like they will be laying low in a lively village, and the lady is glad to hear that and tells them to fill her in on all the details when they get back. And then she disappears just as suddenly as she appeared. Dara and Hana are both left completely stunned by what they just witnessed, because this is the first time either of them has ever seen Ashura-sama in person, who is a genuine god operating on an entirely different level from your average demon. Dara is so deeply grateful that he can barely find the words, because he never in his life thought he would ever get to see one with his own eyes. But Left and Right start to wonder out loud why Dara doesn't show the two of them that same kind of amazement and respect, because back where they come from they are treated and respected as gods themselves. Meanwhile, back in the forest, Gabby is being carried away on a stretcher, and she looks over at Jin and apologizes, telling him that it was her own call to let Yuru go when she did. But Gabby tells her that it wasn't her fault at all, because Asa was only doing what she did in order to save her, and he doesn't hold that against either of them. Jin tells her not to dwell on it, because the old man is actually going to be glad when he finds out that Yuru is still alive and has made it off the mountain safely. That aside, Gabby starts to think about just how close things really got, and how it genuinely would have been all over for her if Asa had not stepped in when she did. This gets Jin thinking and wondering whether Yuru's demons were really as powerful as all of that. Gabby tells him that they were without a doubt incredibly strong, though she also points out that it was actually Yuru himself who put the arrow in her and not the demons, signifying that he has the heart of a true hunter. Meanwhile, somewhere deeper in the forest, two soldiers who managed to survive the chaos are trying desperately to find their way back out, but they both drop to their knees in exhaustion as they realize that they have somehow ended up back at the exact same spot for the 5th time already, which means they are completely lost with very little hope of ever finding their way back on their own. At the same time, Yuru and the rest of the group press on and continue their journey forward together, and Yuru's eyes light up with wonder as he catches his first ever glimpse of the city spread out below him, glowing with lights and full of life, the world that exists far beyond the walls of his village. That was the 2nd episode. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.